She didn't want to stay in Czechoslovakia. But on the other hand, you can't get to America. And her boss, now the war's over, the fascist guy, who wasn't such a bad fellow, as I said before, he said, now the war's over, let's go back to square one. You always were a good secretary. I see you have a baby now, so times are difficult, so we'll give you we'll double your salary. That's eminently fair, double salary. And so you'll continue to work over here. And what choice did she have? She was not in a position to turn this down. And so you have to go for the next 4 years, is that it? 4 years, every day, past the hospital where her husband used to work, past the building where her brother and sister used to live, past over here where her best friends all were shot. And you see the people on the street, right and left, and this one fingered and told, this one killed this Jew, and that's the way it was. When we read the keynotes about the Crusades, all the rest of it, people never talk about the day after the Crusade was over, when you still had to live in the same town, as it's still the same people that killed your mother, your brother, and your sister. And what do you do about it? There's nothing you can do about it. You can be a store owner, they're the same customers, you serve them after it's all over. You have no choice. You see? And this was a particularly difficult period. Hours late, so I'll try to make this as quick as I can. What happened was, she tried to get into America. Once again, there are people who, I know there are people in this room who went through the same thing she did or their parents did. There were big quotas in this country even after the Second World War. People don't know it. There were big quotas over here. And just like you hear in the 1930s, they wouldn't let into ships. So after the Second World War was over, they still went into ships very often. And in the case of my mother, who was a widow and an orphan, it didn't help the fact that she had a brother here and in Minneapolis and Judy's father in Baltimore. It didn't matter. And all through 1946, 47, and 48, there was no give. They put you at the end of the line, which means in 25 years you can apply or something like that. What are you going to do? And it started to get Czechoslovakia went communist after the war. She said one day a guy shows up and says, "From now you're going to be my secretary because I'm the new communist boss over here," and that's it. And as soon as she saw that, she said, "Oh, we're back to it's not Hitler, obviously, but we're back to totalitarianism." Who knows where this will lead? I know where it led last time. And so you get really, really desperate over here. In this case, fortunately, in 1948, the mayor of Minneapolis was elected to the Senate, Hubert Humphrey, who was a friend of, or an acquaintance, shall we say, of my mother's sister-in-law, her brother's wife. And he entered the Senate in 1949, and he helped get her into the country. That's what it was. That's what it takes. You see? So by November of 1949, she was able to get to America. She came, stayed a short while in Baltimore, went to Minneapolis, stayed there for a year or two, had to go to public school to learn the English language at the level of the secretary. I told the story many times. The first thing they did was put her in a Shakespeare class. She said, Shakespearean English is not what you need for a secretary. Finally put her into the right class. And at the same time that she was attending public school, which she graduated from at the age of 37, for English, I mean, at the same time she had to make a living. And so all you could do was get a job in a factory. Factory is a factory, piecework. There's the caps where they make hats. All day long you stand and drill in here. She was not ever educated or trained for this kind of work. This, all of a sudden, the back hurts, this hurts, and the other thing hurts, so you can't keep up with it. Next door to her was the next person in line was a Russian lady with a babushka, not Jewish. And she took a liking to her because she could speak Slavic together. And so on the lunch hour, this old Russian lady would make up whatever she needed for the quota. You see? So she ran into all these people, but that's not a future. And so eventually she arranged it. She liberated herself, I guess, out of that to get a job finally once she graduated as a secretary in a company. But even then, Minneapolis was not a future Yiddishkeit-wise. And that's what she wanted. And that summer, Judy here, my mother's niece, was a teenager or something. And you know how old you were, I know. She visited Minneapolis. She visited Minneapolis. That's all the family lore, and she came back.